Okay, so let's talk about game theory. And I suppose the first thing that I have to describe to you is what this is. Some of you may have never heard about this particular topic before. And to try to illustrate what it is, we'll look at a few examples. Okay. And the first example is from this picture. So this picture is a picture of President Kennedy giving a press conference, a very famous press conference, to the U.S. in 1962. In October 1962, he announces basically that the Soviet Union had been secretly installing nuclear missiles in Cuba. And the crisis that ensued after this uh, became known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. And it's as close as the world ever came to global thermonuclear war. The two sides, the US and the Soviet Union, had their sort of fingers on the button, so to speak. And, but of course, thankfully, the crisis passed. And for the rest of the Cold War, while the superpowers schemed and they sort of squared off one another, they fought all of these proxy conflicts, for example, in Vietnam and in Afghanistan, they never actually confronted each other directly. The Cold War never became a hot war. Why is that? Well, the answer to this, as it turns out, and many other questions can be studied using a branch of microeconomic theory called game theory. Game theory is a sort of mathematical way of looking at strategic interaction, and it can help us understand a wide variety of social phenomena, from the use of helmets in the NFL to even something very broad like the evolution of human cooperation itself. So, okay, so now, you may not have necessarily heard of game theory before, but I suspect that many of you have actually seen a movie featuring one of game theory's creators. So let me show you guys this scene. Okay, so okay, well, give you some background first. So this is the movie A Beautiful Mind, starring Russell Crowe. This movie came out in 2001, and Russell Crowe plays a mathematician and economist named John Nash, who helped develop game theory in the 1950s. And the movie, it contains a scene that kind of describes Nash's most significant discovery, something called the Nash equilibrium. Okay. Now, of course, you got to be careful taking your, lessons on microeconomics from Hollywood. The focus of the movie obviously is on John Nash's struggle to cope with this disease of schizophrenia. But I think nonetheless, the scene, even though it's maybe inaccurate in the details, it gives you some sense of the way that game theorists think. So let's have a look at this clip here.
Incoming, gentlemen.
Aye, aye.
Let's go like this.
Deep breaths. Nash, you might want to stop shuffling your papers for 5 seconds.
I will not buy you gentlemen beer.
Oh, we're not here for beer, my friend.
Oh. Does anyone else feel she should be moving in slow motion?
Will she want a large wedding, you think?
Should we say swords, gentlemen? Pistols at dawn?
Have you remembered nothing? Recall the lessons of Adam Smith, the father of modern economics.
In competition, individual ambition serves the common good.
Exactly.
Every man for himself, gentlemen.
And those who strike out are stuck with their friends.
I'm not going to strike out.
You can lead a blonde to water, but you can't make her drink.
I don't think he said
All
that.
right, nobody move. She's looking over here. Right, she's looking at Nash.
Oh, God. All right, he may have the upper hand now, but wait until he opens his mouth. Remember the last time?
Oh, yes, that was the history books.
Adam
Adam Smith needs revision.
What are you talking about?
If we all go for the blonde, we block each other. Not a single one of us is going to get her. So then we go for her friends. But they will all give us the cold shoulder because nobody likes to be second choice. But what if no one goes for the blonde? We don't get in each other's way, and we don't insult the other girls. That's the only way we win. That's the only way we all get laid. Adam Smith said, the best result comes from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself, right? That's what he said, that's right? Incomplete. Incomplete. Okay? Because the best result would come from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself and the group.
Ash, this is some way for you to get the blonde on your own. You can go to hell. Governing dynamics, gentlemen. Governing dynamics. Adam Smith. Who's wrong?
Yep, here we go. Careful, careful.
Thank you.
All right. So, okay, so, what was going on in that clip? So Nash, the reason why that clip is emblematic of game theory is because Nash is thinking about how the actions of each player in the game, in this case, the four men, are going to affect each other. And he's sort of reaching the conclusion if I take into account not only what I'm going to do, but what the other people in this system are going to do, well, then I might choose to behave in a different way. So game theory is a branch of microeconomics that studies how agents interact strategically. And what do we mean by interact strategically? It's kind of exactly this way of thinking about things that I just described. What am I going to do? What are other people going to do? And then how do those mix of choices sort of inform what I ought to do in the first place? So these underlying agents, the participants in game theory, they could be anything. So in that clip, it was those four men sitting at a bar. But it could be people, it could be firms, it could be countries, it could be anything. And the theory usually assumes that these agents have certain objectives, and behave in whatever way will best accomplish those objectives. But that in thinking about how to accomplish those objectives, each agent is thinking about how all of the other agents will act and then making plans accordingly. Okay, so I hope that gives you a very general sense, a very general overview of what game theory is. And hopefully it will become even more clear once we look at a few specific examples. So that's what we're going to do in the next segment.